Welcome to the Lifestyle Medicine Update. I'm Dr. James Meschino. Colorectal cancer is the third most common cancer worldwide, and it's the second leading cause of cancer death. As reported in 2024 in the journal Critical Reviews in Food, Science, and Nutrition, colorectal cancer incidence is rising in younger people. Now, this relates to the fact that colorectal cancer development, in most cases, involves an interplay between genetics and environmental factors, especially dietary factors. The review provides convincing evidence that, taken together, studies show that a diet that's high in red meat and alcohol is associated with an increased risk of colorectal cancer. A diet that's high in dietary fiber, calcium, and yogurt is associated with a lower risk of colorectal cancer. That's fairly consistent in many studies. They also report that studies show that colorectal cancer patients have better survival outcomes after medical treatment if they follow a diet that is more plant-based, is low in refined and starchy carbohydrates, includes fish to get omega-3 fats, whole cereal fiber, vegetables, and whole grains, but not fruit, and it excludes alcohol. Whereas poorer survival outcomes in people that have had colorectal cancer is associated with a diet that's high in refined grains and sugar-sweetened beverages. So a patient that's had colorectal cancer, if they decide they want to every day get up and have Captain Crunch cereal or Frosted Flakes and drink 3 Pepsis a day, then they're really working against themselves. Another study published in 2024 in the journal Gastroenterology suggests very strongly that a person's diet largely determines the composition of the gut microflora. That means the kind of bacteria that you have living in your large intestine. And that high levels of certain gut bacteria are strongly associated with the development of colorectal cancer. So in their analysis of the health professionals follow-up study, the Nurses' Health Study, the Nurses' Health Study 2, which comprised over 6.5 million person years of life, they found that individuals with high gut concentrations of 3 specific gut bacteria were at much higher risk of developing colorectal cancer, 20 to 40% higher risk than individuals who had lower levels of these bacteria. So what are these bacteria? The dangerous bacteria seem to be the F. nucleatum, the PKS strain of E. coli, and the enterotoxigenic Bacteroides fragilis. These are 3 strains of bacteria that are strongly associated with colorectal cancer. Now, examining stool samples from these many thousands of individuals, the most striking finding from these studies was that individuals with the highest intake of processed foods and the lowest intake of fiber-rich foods had higher stool levels of these 3 colorectal cancer-linked bacteria, and these individuals experienced a roughly 25 to 40% increased risk of developing colorectal cancer over time compared to individuals who consumed fewer processed foods and regularly consumed high-fiber foods. As the researchers concluded, and I'm quoting, "A dietary pattern with a low consumption of processed foods may help prevent colorectal cancer through modulation of the gut microbiome." That means not having those unfriendly gut bacteria that can do damage. Now, from my perspective, the evidence has been mounting for many years that a high animal fat diet, high refined carbohydrate diet, these particular patterns are linked to increased risk of colorectal cancer. There's been a lot of evidence for that. Whereas a diet with less animal fat, with the exception of fish, and higher fiber-rich plant foods is associated with a lower risk of colorectal cancer in general. But we learned from recent studies that highly processed foods, including bacon and luncheon meats and deli meats, may be even more dangerous than high-fat animal products alone, as these foods tend to encourage the proliferation within the gut of dangerous bacteria that appear to be involved in colorectal cancer development. So adding to this evidence, in April of 2024, a report from the Fred Hutch Cancer Center cited evidence that a high meat diet increases colorectal cancer by 30%, and a diet high in processed meat increased colorectal cancer risk even further to 40%. For individuals with certain genetic traits, the consumption of red meat and or processed meat increases colorectal cancer even further than 30 or 40%. They also point out that obesity and regular alcohol consumption are strongly correlated with increased risk of colorectal cancer, even in people under the age of 60 years of age, younger people. My advice really is to begin colorectal cancer screening via colonoscopy by age 45 or 50 in most cases, and to remain at or near your ideal body weight. Avoid red meat and processed meat as much as possible. Don't drink alcohol or use it very judiciously. Avoid sugar-sweetened beverages and ingest fiber-rich vegetables, grains, and legumes, beans and peas on a daily basis. I also think that low-fat, sugar-free yogurt is a good way to obtain friendly gut bacteria as well as calcium, which are both associated with lower colorectal cancer risk in many studies. Now, one last comment is that if you're using a protein shake to support your muscle and lean mass, make sure the protein shake contains less than 1 gram of fat, is low in sugar, and is enriched with gut-healthy dietary fiber. So I've provided the key references for this information in the text below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.